Hello, this is Jason Delgado. Welcome back to the Reup. Today we're going to be talking about making jokes, or how I made a particular joke in question. So making jokes, that's how we do it. Welcome to the Reup. Let's go. And so I wanted to preface this welcome again to the Orsini Studios in beautiful Los Angeles, California. I am Jason Delgado. This is the Reup, a show where I discuss my sort of journey along the way to becoming a full-time comedian out in the world, entertainer in general, out of the day job and into the dream job. And just talk about kind of the things I go through for people who are also trying to get out of their day job into sort of their dream position, the struggles, the things we think about, the things we learn, and such pitfalls and triumphs. You already know. Anyway, my name is Jason Delgado, and this is how we do. A little bit of a flex right there. Get your Toto brand or your Toto Bien branded shirts and merchandise at thereupgear.com. I'll probably drop something there on a little promo flex right there for the t-shirt company. I'd be wearing that one there, but I just got it, and I like to wash t-shirts before I wear them. You don't know where these things have been. No, I'm kidding. They're made in the USA, so you know they're clean. But in any case, welcome. Today I thought I'd talk about making jokes. I want to preface this by saying this is my personal thing that I do for one particular joke in question. I'm sweating a little bit, even getting nervous about this. But again, this is one man's opinion on how I go through the process of making a joke and sort of how it turned out and sort of the thinking behind it. So, if this is not how you make a joke, or you think everything I'm saying is complete garbage, comment. It'd be wonderful. Let's start a dialogue. This is the best. I want this to be something cool. But if you like it, also comment, like, and subscribe. I think that's how I'm supposed to do it. But in any case, I wanted to talk about making jokes. I did have notes, so I'm going to go and sneaky over to the notes over here, just because I wanted to kind of discuss things that I thought about, and I sort of wrote them down here as they were happening. Essentially, the bit was I kind of came up with how I go about making a joke, for the most part. And these are not rules, but these are things that I use, things that I kind of think about when I'm making a joke. We'll go through them quick, and then we'll kind of break them down in general. The first one is the premise. Premise, what are we talking about? What's the situation? What are we goofing on? The next thing is, where am I? In the premise and in the situation of the joke, where am I in the joke? Or in the situation? The next thing was, what am I concerned with? So there's a situation, where am I in the situation, and what are my concerns? What are the things I'm thinking about in that situation? Not even on a funny yet. These are the things that kind of go through my head. Then finally, fourth part, I think, what's funny about that? And then the last part are the words. The words, as I like to say. Because the words are one of those things where that's about like shaving, and it's more like songwriting, in my opinion, because it's like language, but it's also language in a certain cadence, as a good, in my opinion, how a good joke goes, has a good cadence where it sort of sings a little bit in its own way. I'm going to stop saying in my opinion. Everything I say is in my opinion from here going forward. Of course, people break these rules. These are not even rules. We're just talking. Last time I say it. So anyway, we'll go through them one by one. The premise. So the premise I initially came up with was I wanted to do a joke about the earthquake that happened, because we had this, 7.1 earthquake, and, everybody was like, oh my God, big earthquake, and, luckily nothing really bad happened. And so I felt like, I want to make a joke about the earthquake. I don't know what that's going to be. Then I thought, where am I? So when I was, and another thing for me, when I make a joke, I think it has to have truth. I remember, I don't know who it is, and I hope the person isn't watching. It's probably not. Remember one time I was just walking by some street fair or something, and there was a comedian doing this joke, and he kept saying basic bitch over and over again in the joke. And sorry for the cursing, but He kept saying over and over again. And I was like, dude, you sound like you never say that word in your whole life. And so now when you're saying it in a joke, whether it's funny or not doesn't matter, because it just sounds fake coming out of your mouth, right? So I think an important part of it is, where am I in the joke? Like, it has to be truthful in a sense. And when I was experiencing earthquake, I was just hanging out. I was sitting around and talking to my buddy, and we were on the deck, I think. And then we're on the deck, and then it started shaking. Then we came inside. We started moving furniture, and my buddy like dipped under the table because he thought it was gonna go real bad. And then it was it was over, and we were all like, oh my goodness. And I thought, well, there's nothing particularly funny about that, but that's where I was, so we'll go there. So it's an earthquake. I was at home, in my apartment, kind of hanging out with my friends. And then what am I concerned with? So as far as like what I'm interested in general in life, or in a premise in a bit, what is it? And one of the things I'm kind of concerned with, as you could tell by the Reup, is kind of, motivating myself, pushing forward, getting better at the art of comedy, at the art of storytelling, all the things, all the arts I want to try and get better and to improve myself and to reach a stature. That's a thing that's always concerns me. Not concerns is a bad word, but sort of like it's always on my mind. And it's a motivating factor of what I do. Again, this is still not funny, I don't think. So I don't know what to do. But now we're at the part. Right, so now we're at the part. So what's funny, right? What's funny? And I don't know. I couldn't tell you, So the earthquake happened. I was home with my roommates in my apartment, right? I want to be, successful and good and worthy of success and stature in life, be better of things, be better at the arts of the things I do. And how do those three things kind of come into play? And I came up with this. Here, everybody, we survived. We're the survivors of the earthquake, man. Congratulations. We did it. Now, it feels good. One of the things that was a little bit good about the earthquake was it kind of brought people together. I saw my neighbors. They were asking if everybody was okay. I called my friends. I was like, hey, how's everything doing? They're like, yeah, we're good. The kids are safe. My wife is safe. The house is safe. The pool is safe. The dog is safe. I'm like, man, I gotta get my act together, I don't have enough things to be worried about. My PlayStation safe, and I wrapped it in a blanket. It's a PlayStation Pro, man. Those graphics. Can't risk that. Now, I think it worked. And it involved the things that I discussed, right? So my thinking was, when the earthquake happened, I called all my friends. That's a true story. And, when they were talking about the things that were concerned, I was like, it wasn't as, dramatic. You make it a little more dramatic in the joke, right? But it was sort of that thing where I'd call each one and they would talk about something more adult than the next. I thought like, man, this is reflecting poorly on me. So it involves the earthquake. It involves the truth of where I was in life, and it also involves the thing I'm sort of, who am I in the joke? Where am I concerned with in the joke? And then the last part of the words, and the words, the words are the words. One of the things I thought was, I like to study tension jokes. Trying to incorporate more tension jokes. And I call these tension jokes, I don't know if this is the term, whatever they use, but like, for me, I like a joke where there's periods where everybody's like, whoa, where are we going with this? And then have it work, right? I think some jokes you go, ra, da, 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 and each is a wave of a hit that grows and escalates, and it's an escalating hit. And I think, sometimes, for me, my opinion, I won't say it anymore, but for me, I feel like you can tire those, if you went rah, 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 if you do too many of those, and sometimes for 5 minutes, it's good. You just blow them away, boom, with all this power, and then they drop. But for me, I sort of like a little bit of a rah, 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 and then a little bit of a tension joke, where I like to kind of pace it and elongate it and sort of make it silent strings and then hit with a pop at the end. And so that was sort of how everything came together. So I thought, those are the things. The words I will use, I will word it as a tension joke. We can use this premise, and you came up with it. And the things that I kind of wanted to, other things I'm kind of noting here. One of the things as far as working on a joke was, I have no footage of me actually practicing the joke, unfortunately. Excuse me. But it wasn't only, the tension joke sort of developed. That's something that developed over time, where you look at the joke, and I was telling it fast and it didn't sing, you know what I mean? It wasn't paced as such. And what I like about it is that, practicing and doing it, I thought you get part of the funny just because you're saying so many things. So by the time you get to like the fourth, fifth thing, like the dog is safe, the pool is safe, I think people get ramped up to that a joke is coming. And so I like that sort of pace. But I think before, if I went like then I got him act together, I felt like it wasn't singing. I think it works better if it's like and that sort of sing and that pace and that full. I know there's a lot of sound effects. This is how I think. It's all I got, guys and gals and all between. But yeah, there's something about that singing element to the joke that I feel, for me, is a very important part of it. And I still, even when I'm on stage, I felt like I could even do it even a little more strung out. Like stop a little bit more. I felt like I stepped on a little bit of a laugh there at the end, and so I could even pace it out further. But everything's practice, right? But that's kind of the premise of how I sort of came up with one example of a joke, and then you got to do many of those over a period of time. And I love sort of, working on a joke is fun just because for me, I don't know what's funny until I get it out there. When you say it out loud, you think this is funny, and then you hear this is funny, and you go, I thought it'd be this thing, and now it's this thing, but you don't know until you perform it. And so I think you can plan all these things, you can come up with all these schemas, but at the end of the day, you got to get out in the world. You got to get out in the world and do it. And so I encourage that. I encourage getting out in the world and doing your art, whether it's comedy, whether it's music, whether it's painting, whether it's acting, whether it's singing. Just get out and do it, and practice, and hopefully it'll all work out. I feel good about how I'm doing. They say success is just the continued effort towards a fixed goal, and I feel like that's kind of how I'm looking at it. So each day I feel a little more successful, but I feel like it's also fun to goof on that. Like how I think of this, but still, it's like, man, I got a long way to go. But hey, I'm very happy. I'm pleased. If you made it this far in the Reup, thank you for joining me once again. Another episode. We have reached that time. Eventually, these are getting a little longer, so hopefully they'll progressively get longer if they're not too annoying. But this particular episode was fun. I had a good time sort of sharing with you. I hope you enjoyed it. You don't hate it too much. But I think it's fun to share and experience and sort of see sort of like how the nuts and bolts come together on things. I love how comedians sort of share how they do things. And I saw a video on Jerry Seinfeld talking about how he writes jokes and does things. And his Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee was great. So this weekend, the Eddie Murphy episode in particular. But yeah. He's not sponsoring this podcast, but there you go. Shout out to him. He deserves a free one because he did a really good job, man. That Eddie Murphy one in particular, highly recommend. But in any case, thank you for joining me on this beautiful, beautiful sunny day in beautiful Los Angeles, California. My name is Jason Delgado. This has been the Reup. Todo bien as always. Flex positive. Thank you for joining me. See you on the next one.